Hello, everybody, and welcome to askLRR, a video podcast where we answer the questions that you ask LRR. It's right there in the name. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have a Heather.
Hello.
And a Beej.
That's me.
And the questions that we are answering today are submitted by those of you who support us through the YouTube memberships. Thank you so much for that. If you're ever curious as to how to ask us a question, Heather, yes, I pointed the right way, very helpfully puts that information all down below in the descriptions. And of course, everything that we do is impossible without your support over the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Shall we jump into this, friends?
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
We only have so much time. I mean, we don't have to rush. It'll be fine.
All right. Harold Price asks, how long were you in around Loading Ready Run before you really felt like a part of Loading Ready Run? Let's start with Heather.
Okay, let's see. I know at least before I even became friends, I'd say maybe a year of hovering around awkwardly, being like, I'm in the way, I don't understand this. And then maybe another year on top of that, because you're still awkwardly kind of, and in my case, I'm still awkwardly hovering around because I'm running a loading time camera, but now I have a camera while I awkwardly run around.
So it was about when you were like really in the swing of doing loading time filming.
Well, yeah, because it takes a while for you to kind of like figure out what people want and what you want, and getting to know people. And if you don't know people very well, then you're just kind of like, don't know how that person's reacting and why that's a thing. Run over here now. Don't mind me. I just have a camera and I'm filming all of your potentially most embarrassing moments. Who knows?
There's an interesting thing in Loading Ready Run where we don't have a formal hiring process.
I mean, we do now.
Kind of.
But
yeah, you can be salary, but it's not as if we make a job posting. Loading Ready Run looking to hire internet clown. Please apply with resume of embarrassing times you've posted yourself on the internet, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And there's this really interesting thing that happens to a lot of us where we are friends, and then we are friends who are nearby when filming happens, and then there are friends who are in the filming, and then there are friends who are in the filming who are getting paid, and then there are the people who are getting paid to show up, not actually just who are there and then filmed. And it's this really weird transition of, am I in the way? I'm being paid to be here. Am I in the way? I'm supposed to be here, right?
And I'm still getting in the way.
And we're absolutely all still getting in the way, but now we're more comfortable with it.
Yeah, now it's like, Beej, please leave. You're in the way.
Yeah, it's like, thank Christ, I want to go home.
That's why you'll hear like a good portion of people, especially people who join later on, have probably started with boom, or holding a camera, or just holding the teleprompter.
Yeah, boom was always the thing that people argued a lot about. Like, I'll go next to. In the first few weeks of being in Victoria and like holding boom and doing the whole, I think the first thing they filmed, they were literally like, Beej, can you just be this person for us? Like, read this one line. I'm like, sure, not a problem. And then like the second week when I showed up, they're like, oh, we wrote this with you in mind. And I'm like, we thought you had the voice for this one character. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to act and be in stuff. But even then it was like, I'm here, I'm going to get paid for stuff as things start happening. And I think it was more like, maybe it was like the second or third convention I went to when it really was like, people start to recognize, they start to come up to the table and see me and be like, oh, I know who you are. Or you see people writing in the YouTube comments being like, oh, Beej is really, who's that guy? It's like, oh, that's Beej, he's really funny. It's like, yeah, he is really funny. Like the moment when people start recognizing that you're there.
Yeah,
and I don't think I took like about
really
a year or two of doing that and doing conventions and whatnot and having people like recognize that.
I like that your thing is like, oh, they asked me to read a line, and I was like, okay. And I'm like, the first time I remember being asked to just stand on camera, like as an extra or something. I think I was just standing in the middle of the room going like this, being like, they can see me. Oh no.
When you show up in credits, right? Like when you make it to the Hustle credits, or you make it to the Friday Nights credits, or you make it into something else like that, sometimes that's like a big deal too.
Well, that was different for me because I was appearing in credits for years before I actually felt like a member of Loading Ready Run. Because my first appearance in LRR stuff was like 2013. And I wouldn't actually say I was a member of Loading Ready Run until closer to 2018. And like going to conventions and going to everything as well. But it was weird because I always had a full-time job. And it's interesting to try and think to yourself, it's like, well, this isn't my career. This is barely even my hobby. This is like the activity I do to spend time with the people I care about.
Yeah.
And occasionally they give me money. It was really bizarre. And it was, I mean, I had an interesting experience in like 2015 or 2016. I was at PAX, which I paid to attend because I was attending the convention, standing in line to wait to go into a Loading Ready Run panel. And people in the lineup were like, "What are you doing in line, Serge? You're supposed to be in there." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm a friend of the people who are up there, and I've done a couple of videos, but I'm not a member of Loading Ready Run." And I wonder, there's also like the whole weird mental unpacking of imposter syndrome that I think a lot of us in this group and this lifestyle also have to deal with. So I don't know. I get a monthly paycheck now. It's pretty easy to be like, yes, this is my job.
Yeah. No,
I do relate though, that whole idea of like, well, I want to hang out with my friends and we all hang out on Saturday, but the only thing they want to seem to do is like film some stuff, and I guess they have work to do, but it's the only time I can hang out, so I guess I'll hang out in that building and be useful, and then maybe at the end of the day there'll be hamburgers. That'll be fun and less stressful.
Yeah. We'll go out and get hamburgers or something, yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah. It's weird because it is very much it's such an amorphous point for me because I'm like, I might have been in stuff pretty quick and might have done crap shots or maybe been on a podcast at some point, but this like slow push, and it's like, when did you actually feel like you're a part of it? And I'm like, it kind of just grew like onto me like a weird exoskeleton. It's like I didn't realize that I was so in it, even though I was here to be in it in a way. It's like I didn't realize I was in it until I was in it.
When streaming first started as a thing with LRR,
oh yeah,
and you got a stream right off the bat, I think that's very clear that you're clearly
I'm there.
You're clearly in it, and you can tell how incredibly unaware and weirded out by cameras I still am, because I joined you on a stream and didn't realize I wasn't even on the camera because I was too scared to look at the screen to see myself, and you can barely hear me on the mic, and I didn't know that at all. I was just like, all right, I did the thing. Oh, I wasn't even on camera. Why was I so scared?
I think it's also insightful into our approach towards making content, was that wasn't our job. Right?
Yeah.
Like we've all, it seems, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it does seem that we approached it as this is a fun thing that we could do. And membership wasn't important. A career wasn't important. It was just like, let's just make this fun thing. And then I think Loading Ready Run has talked about this a lot. A business kind of built around it. They're like, oh no, Graham's like, I have a company with 20 employees now. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. It's much more than a cottage industry. I mean, it has been for years, right? Like even going back to 2012 and 2011, it was still like, this is a functional business, but oh man, is it a business now?
Yeah, but like as we were talking about like the we don't make job postings and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, because in general we have so many friends that we've been hovering around that if we need extra people, we already know their skill sets.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
So it's really fast and easy to be like, oh hey, so and so lives down the street from me. Please show up. I know you're available.
Yeah. There's so many people that actually just makes it more fun to find who wants to guest. Anyway.
Shall we move on?
Yes, please.
All right. Next up, a question from Alasser93. An anime-related question. All right, I'll just fade into the bush.
Like you might have an opinion. I don't know.
Any thought on Fruit Basket reboot thus far? I am hype for season 3. What's a Fruit Basket?
Okay, so there's a game in Japan that's kind of like
musical chairs,
but everyone gets assigned a fruit to be named, and that fruit has to get up and run around and change spaces with the person in the middle. And if you're gonna call for everyone, you call Fruits Basket, and then everyone gets up and runs around and tries to not be the person left in the middle.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like Duck Duck Goose?
You can kind of feel like
Yeah, a
it's a
little
bit
bit.
like that too. Yeah.
That kind of thing, though, like a big circle of people, big classroom game. In this case, it's actually an anime, but that is a core part of
Yeah.
of the
Like,
thing and
why
why
it's
it's
the
why it's
show!
called that.
It's why it's named that. And
The main girl has was always called the onigiri of the fruits basket, and which meant she never got picked because it was technically not a fruit in the fruits basket. So it's really just a
No.
form of low key bullying.
yeah,
Uh,
and she's a and Toto's just like a really nice girl, but it was just like nobody was really that interested in, and it doesn't really matter ultimately. So this had this had a manga, and then it got in the 90s. It got a show, and then they did a reboot a couple years back. And the reboot is great because it's now everything's in 1080p. It's all in 16:9. It's all drawn beautifully, and there's so much more going on.
well, and they're gonna do the whole thing.
And they're going to do the entire manga.
You know, you get that anime that's being made as the manga's being written, so you only get like the first really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
it's how you get all the filler. It's how you get all the
Yeah.
filler because they can't keep up, right?
Yeah, or you get an anime original ending or something, and people are like, "Oh, that was a really good ending" because it's different. And sometimes the mangakas are like, "Actually, that's a really good ending.
Yeah.
I'll have to keep that in
You
mind."
might if you've heard of a show where there's a family that's based on the zodiac that every time they get hugged by the opposite sex suddenly turns into that animal. That's what this show is.
Yeah.
So
I had not heard of that.
Yeah.
That sounds wild. Hold
It's-
on, there's 12 people in this family?
13.
There's
Now they involve the
13,
cat.
actually.
There's 13. Okay.
Because there's an old story about the cat not being a part of the zodiac because the rat told him to show up on the wrong day because the rat is conniving and cunning, and so everybody went to the party, and then they all got to be made part of the zodiac, but the cat didn't show up because he didn't know the party was happening then, and so he got left out. Again, this is this fruits basket idea of somebody being named
Yeah.
as something that never gets called, right?
Ah.
And-
Yeah, but
yet-
it's fun then because then you get her hugging a boy who then instantly turns into a cat, and
Yeah.
everybody freaks out. And
Yeah, because if you get hugged by the opposite sex and you're one of these animal people, you turn into the animal that you are, which means that, and nobody's supposed to know. It's a big secret, and if people find out, then it's like,
we got to do some mind wiping.
so there's lots going on. And the thing is that it's a fun, happy, wonderful show until it isn't, because the show is actually about growing up and trauma, and
Yeah,
it's
dealing with a lot of trauma.
it's a great comedy at the beginning, and it's a really compelling drama as it builds, and it's
So,
kind of
the
nice.
answer to that question is yes, very hyped for
Yeah.
season 3.
Absolutely.
And for the unasked question, the cow is my favorite because he says the word mystery in English as if he's answering a question, and he's not.
because he's saying mystery. But yeah,
Who's
no,
your
I'm super
favorite
hyped for it too. I've been really happy to watch it, and I know some people don't like it because they liked the original better, and I'm like, that's fine. The original still exists, but I really like what they're doing now.
And your favorite Zodiac?
God, that's hard because I
There's
really
so many of them. We've actually met all of them this time. All of them didn't get met in the first run.
I mean, I'd have to say the cow, the ox as well. Like, he's a lot of fun. But also, like, I've always been partial to cats.
Mhm.
But also, Shigure,
The dragon's pretty good.
the dog,
Oh, the dog. Yeah.
is pretty good too. But he's also like, just because he knows stuff that's going on. Anyway, but yeah,
The dragon's fun because he's not a dragon. They gave him an animal equivalent.
I am a sheep, or a ram or whatever. But I'm not. We don't learn much about the sheep. But
Oh, that's true.
anyway.
Wait, I want to know what Serge's animal zodiac is now.
Yeah, did you ever
I'm
go to
an
a Chinese
Aries.
restaurant? No, that's your Western zodiac. What's your Eastern zodiac? What year were you born in? And what-
85.
85.
Okay, I was rat. What's after rat?
Hold on. What Zodiac is 1985? I'm an ox!
Ooh,
Oh, nice.
you get to be mystery.
Yeah, ox, cow, that same kind
Ox
of thing.
gang. Ox
Yeah.
gang.
That's this year, isn't it?
Yes, because last year was the year they're at.
Is the year of the ox this year? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, there you go. It's your year.
Ooh. 2021's looking up. All
Shall we
right.
move on?
Yeah.
Next up, Spencer Powell asks, for Heather and Serge, ooh, you've both been very successful in your home streams. How has it been to build a community that, while lure adjacent, is still your own? Would you like to go first, friend?
Ooh. So I feel like we have different versions of the term success. Mainly because I think when people say successful, they think of like really large numbers, and I believe my stream counts usually 30 very lovely people that I love seeing every week because they're all there, all of them, always. And for me, that's successful because they all want to be there. But when I think about like building a community, I was just like, well, I put up a Discord because they asked me to. The end. No one's been really awful or anything, so I haven't really had to hurt anybody and kick them out. Which is why I'm kind of happy that I have kind of a smaller, tight knit community.
But how does it feel having a group of people who are like, yes, I might go watch Loading Ready Run content, but I'm also just here to enjoy what you're watching.
When they show up to my stream and they mention Rhythm Cafe, and I'm like, oh, people actually watch that show. They like me. That's nice. But then when I'm in other things and people mention my home streams, I'm like, oh, you know what that is. That's even... So it's mostly just me going, really? Cool.
Just shell-shocked constantly. Just like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I live like 90% of my life. But this is like a nice feeling version of it, as opposed to the, oh no, I've been seen. This is more like, oh no, I've been seen.
Or hooray, I've been seen.
It's like I've been recognized for my hard work and talent.
Yeah. I mean, Serge,
people like me. That seems weird. And maybe it's just because I'm still stuck in junior high and being like, I don't think people like me.
Yeah, God, that sticks with you, doesn't
right?
it?
Yeah.
That takes a while to unlearn, unfortunately. So I'm in a different position as well, because the two of you are full-time Loading Ready Run.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I am part-time.
Yeah.
So it also means I've got a lot more motivation to just hustle. And we have to do that too. And so that's, I think, where a lot of the motivation comes from on that side. The other thing, though, is we talk about the importance of collaboration as a way to get new eyes on stuff that you do. It just in like streaming community in general. And the idea that, what is it? Rising waters raise all ships.
Yeah.
And I just feel that as streamers branch out and make more audiences, we're always like, oh yeah, I'm also doing this Loading Ready Run thing. I'm doing this Desert Bus thing. We're doing all this other stuff. You should come check it out. And it's neat. It's really cool when you're streaming and you're like, how did you get here? How did you find this channel? And of course, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, from Loading Ready Run. But other people are like, oh, no, I met you through TQ, and then TQ rated you one time, and now I also sub to Loading Ready Run. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And they're like, or I saw you playing this game or that game or Desert Bus.
Yeah.
A lot of people from The Escapist. And it's amazing how many different paths people can take to arrive at your content. And I don't often feel that when we go off and we're doing our own things that it's a departure from that, but it's all kind of building. And we've managed to create not only our own fantastic little sub communities, but this amazing, and it's often referred to as like LRR adjacent community, just like this whole network of streamers who support each other, who raid each other, who lift each other up. And I'm mega happy to be a part of that. And that being said, also, because the question's more specific, I'm very lucky to found a group of people who hang out, they call themselves the Brew Crew, little coffee cup things in the background. And yeah, we also made a Discord. I was very hesitant to make a Discord. I was like, why would you want to be in a Discord? Every streamer has a Discord. How many Discords do you want to be in? I'm in 30. I don't check them. But it seemed important, and people liked it, and people are pretty happy there. And I think a final thought I want to add, I'm rambling, but a final thought I want to add is community isn't us.
No.
We as content creators are not able to carry a conversation with all the people who watch our stuff. It's impossible. If you're doing a stream, if 30 people are there, you can't have 30 one-on-one conversations at once. It's like being at a house party and stuff like that. Community is people talking to each other. Community is the idea that people want to spend time there. And I think Loading Ready Run, the Loading Ready Run adjacent communities, all our individual communities are just a testament to the wonderful groups of people that we have managed to attract who want to be in there. And so, yeah, you are community. We aren't, and so thank you for sticking around.
We do very little actually in the way of perpetuating our communities as well. Like there are things you can do as a streamer. Like I know a lot of streamers do community run days where they do games with their community, and they do pop in and talk in their discords. Because I mean, I talk in my Discord quite a bit if I can think of anything to say. I'm very used to lurking in Discord, so it's also really weird for me to pop in and just chat all the time.
You have to think about Twitch as being like 10,000 pubs, and there's the really popular pubs that they're huge mega bars, right? The huge dance clubs that like a couple thousand people show up to, and it's like multi-story, and everyone's dancing and everyone's having a great time. So people are just getting a drink and they're sitting back, and most people are doing that because there's no way to talk because the music's too loud, right?
Yeah.
And then some places are like they're the little corner pub, but it's like it's streets and streets, avenues and streets just full of nothing but pubs. And you walk down the street and you might see that, oh, there's some music playing out of this pub that I want to go see, or there's something playing behind the bar that I want to go watch. And you walk in there and then you're surrounded by 30 people who are all into the same thing, and you're all having a drink and you all start talking about the thing that you see. And the next thing you know, you've made some casual friends. And then you go to like, you leave like, I'm going to go to this other pub because, this pub's closed today. So you walk down the street, or you tell your buddies who you met at this pub, come with me to this other one. And
now you're bar hopping.
Yeah, now you're bar hopping. And that's kind of how Twitch has turned into a thing. It doesn't feel like you can do much to attract people and like lock them into whatever you're doing. They're more like, I might stumble upon you at this point.
It is really nice to have like a bunch of my friends who stream that I know that when I'm done, I can go and look at and be like, okay, I don't know who I should raid. Oh, okay, good. There's like 6 of you streaming right now. Who's playing my most favorite game at the moment?
Yeah.
All right, what do we have next? Mr. Twansel asks Beej and Serge, do you have a fun road quest behind the scenes story that we might not have heard? I mean, I've got lots.
Do you? Can you pick one? It might remind me of a good one too. So
I'm gonna make fun of Graham a little bit here. Did I tell the Graham fart story?
I don't know, but I want to hear it.
All right. So we stopped at a hot spring on day 4 or day 5 up in the Nass Valley.
Yeah,
is that how it's pronounced?
The Niska Lands.
Niska Lands. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I remember we stayed in this fantastic, enormous guest house that night. And we were talking to the host, and he's like, oh yeah, the hot springs are up that way. They're fantastic. You drive, you won't miss it. Before you get to the hot springs, you'll smell it. I'm like, okay, cool. So we're driving up there. We're tired. We get off the hell road. We're like, oh, are we even going to go? We're like, yeah, let's go to the hot springs. This will all be great. And as we start driving, I'm just like, oh yeah, I can smell the sulfur. I can smell the hot springs. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, get that in ya.
And then Graham was like, oh, sorry, Serge. And starts rolling down the window. And he's like, that was me.
Yeah, I saw where this is going. Whoa.
Been on the road for like 11 hours. I'm just absolutely exhausted. I'm just huffing farts.
It's filtered through those nice leather seats in the Yukon. So
that's my favorite behind the scenes story.
It's you getting got, which is a hell of a thing. So the thing that we don't, because when we were done, cameras off, we were done, and we went back to our hotels, and it's like, okay, we know we got to do some stuff tomorrow. It's going to be bright out until it's going to be bright out the entire time. They have civil twilight in Dawson City. And you got to see the party where everyone got to kiss the toe and whatnot. But the next day, you guys didn't get to see anything from the next day. And just as a way of filling you in. So I woke up the next morning, in as much as it was, and we knew we had to go because people had to fly home from Dawson City, but then we also had people who were like, I really just need to get home. So we're like, well, the only open flights are from Whitehorse. So we had to haul ass to Whitehorse, which I believe you even just got ahead of that train and had to go and deliver people to Whitehorse.
I also had to sell cars in Whitehorse.
Well, and that's the thing. So the behind the scenes thing, in a way, is like, so I woke up, I'm like, yeah, okay, good. It's 8 a.m., whatever. And I got into the Crown Vic, and we had to fill the tanks, I think, that morning. It's like in 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever it was that was the thing. It's like, now we gotta drive. And Dawson City to Whitehorse doesn't feel like it should be like a 3-hour drive, but it is. Like it's just a long drive.
It's a long drive.
And so I get into the I get in and I start driving, and we're halfway there. There's a little town, little pull off where you can go to that has like a whole restaurant and grocery store and everything integrated into it. And so I'm driving, and Adam's in the car behind me, and we're about 15 minutes away. And I haven't done this in years. I'm falling asleep, and it's not a straight highway. It's curving and stuff, right? And I'm just dropping, and I'm like, okay, no. And I did it about a third time, and I finally said to Adam, I'm like, Adam, I'm falling asleep at the wheel. I need to keep talking to you. If I don't, I will fall asleep for good. We're gonna talk, and when I get to this location, we're trading spots. He's like, sure, not a problem, right? Because then I'm like, are you awake enough to drive? He's like, yeah, I'll be awake enough to drive, especially having heard that. So we pull in, and I get out, and I go to like buy an energy drink or whatever, but I can't remember if I did or not. But rather than trade seats, what we did is James was driving the Sunfire. And so I just hopped in the Sunfire with him. I don't know why. I think it's just because I hadn't ridden in it. And of course, I was sleep deprived, so I wasn't thinking straight either.
Like, this is a great idea.
Yeah. So I was sitting, but I hadn't ridden in it, and I wanted to have a chance to ride in it. And I did. I got in the car, and I put the seat way back. And of course, I also turned the AC on and got to see the dust. Stupid. And then I laid back, and I fell asleep within about 5 minutes or whatever. And we just came in. And that's what I remember. And the weird thing is, like, I can't even tell you if that actually happened. But it's what I remember.
Yeah, my understanding of that thing was that it was a very grueling, like, I know you didn't travel far, but when you do a lot of camera work, you end up redoing and reshooting and resetting up so many times that you should always assume that a person who, like, did a 5-minute thing on camera, especially if it looks like it's really well produced, they probably took at least an hour to do it.
Oh yeah. So that was my thing, is that the only time I almost fell asleep behind the wheel was actually when we were done and we were driving home. I don't know why that was the only time that it happened.
You haven't done that since we went on vacation.
Like,
years
and
it's
years
such a
ago.
relief, right? We had so much tension. We were working so long all those days, and then we finally finished it. We're like, we're done. We made it. We did this incredible thing.
Yeah, right? And I should have had enough sleep that night, because I didn't go drinking. I didn't do whatever. I did my laundry and I went to bed, and I thought I had enough sleep.
That kind of thing will take a toll on you for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's not that night, right? It's the 10 days that led up to that.
It's true.
Yeah.
But everything we got in okay, and we managed to get rid of the cars, and Serge had to kick so much ass to try to sell our cars, and I'm glad God damn it, I'm glad they're gone. I'm glad we didn't have to worry about them.
Oh, the math on everything.
Yeah.
There's the math versus like emotional attachment of like, oh, what do I do here?
Yeah.
And as I'm driving with Graham, I'm starting to make arguments. I'm like, all right, well, here's how much it's going to cost to bring the cars back.
Yeah.
That sort of settled it all. All right.
Yeah.
What do we have next? Dear Heather and Serge, Danielle Jetpixie asks, if you two were to start doing a stream together, what would you play or do? Ooh.
We've never, it's never been just like the two of us, has it?
Ever?
Like, we've definitely done group streams.
Oh, yeah,
We've been on like
yeah.
CTS, but I don't think it's just been the two of us on a stream.
And it seems like it's recurring. So you're not really a Minecraft person, and Serge isn't really a rhythm game person, I don't think.
I think we'd have to go into the Nintendo franchise.
I think it would be really cool if we could find something we both don't know a lot about. Like we could explore together a new venture.
Fortnite.
Oh goodness!
Heather and Serge turn into Apex Legend grinders.
So bad at these.
Yeah. Wow. Right. I do like that idea. Find a brave new world of things that we've never gotten into. What if we managed a sports team?
God. The two of us could get into baseball, because I'm sure that's a thing neither of us cares about.
I mean, both of you playing Football Manager and trying to deal with that seems like It's so
Yeah,
tedious.
either that or I've always really liked when I see streams of people who are showing something to a person that they think they might like but they've never seen, kind of like how we've done
Watch and
we've
play, or
both guested on Talking Sim for stuff like that,
Yep.
where it's like, oh, I have to tell you all about this game and I think you'd like it, kind of sharing mentality. I think that would be cool too.
Heck yeah. Well, you had a great tweet the other day where you're just like, hey, what's your favorite console? What are your favorite games? So imagine it was just a retrospective of, all right, for this stream, I'm going to tell you why I loved Mario Kart 64, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like sort of walked us through. That one's nice too, because it's a show that has a finite endpoint. It's like, well, we hit the present.
Yeah. I personally, I really like it when we do stuff that has definitive endpoints, because then it feels like you hit a natural conclusion as opposed to this weird struggling petering out of, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
That's important. Knowing when your story is done being told, even if your story is just playing a game, right?
I love that I was thinking about how would you two find common ground, and you both were like, no, why don't we find uncommon ground? Why don't we find ground that both of us have never touched? I'm like, that's not bad. We could
easily do a thing where Serge shows me how to do Minecraft and I could pull out like a dozen rhythm games, but I kind of feel like people seen that.
Yeah.
And that it's probably better for us to go for something, I think, just that works with our personalities more than what games we like.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. You're very smart.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Terry Child asks, what are your thoughts on the end of Adobe Flash?
Oh, I thought it was incredibly tragic that they killed off that character in the 3rd season.
Beej.
I have an opinion.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Good.
Oh.
Good. Yeah. It's funny because that's actually not an unpopular opinion, but it's also not a popular opinion. There's striations, but the way I feel about it is like Adobe was never going to find a way to make it work on the dominant platforms of our time, which is mobile. The ways they were doing it was eating battery. They were never going to find a way to actually make it be a functional thing. And it was, I mean, that's very profit motivated of Apple to basically be like, look, this doesn't run very well and we want our phones to last a long time, so we're not allowing Flash on these things. It's a very feels very draconian, right? It's like we're just making a hard thing to say it's not going to be on our platform. But ultimately that, the Android phones that had Flash on them had lower battery life ultimately if you used a lot of Flash and stuff like that. And while it's sad that stuff like Homestar Runner, all the original Flash stuff there is like it's no longer available to watch original Flash stuff, the guys at Homestar Runner brought everything back up in other forms, right? It's like in HTML5 or it's in other things. A lot of people at like Newgrounds and stuff, they lose a whole ton of stuff. But let's be fair, a lot of the stuff on Newgrounds was mostly trash. The really good stuff that's on but seriously, because everywhere you go, there's always trash, right? Look at the Nintendo Wii. The large amount of games on the Nintendo Wii were mostly trash.
We used the word shuffleware, excuse me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is a lot of the stuff that ended up on like Newgrounds and other places, not very good. Not stuff that really should survive past the it's not stuff that needs to be like floated around for people. Probably a lot of very ironically racist or ironically transphobic or ironically homophobic content, which then becomes very hard to separate, that kind of thing. A lot of that kind of stuff too. But there were gems. There was such good stuff on Newgrounds and on all these other sites. And so what happens to it? Well, the stuff that people think is worth saving and and it's like, we want to immediately archive this. There are sites that are making Flash emulators and making archives for that to happen. And like, from an archivist perspective, it sucks that a lot of the dross is gone, because that's even telling about a period of time.
Yeah.
But also for the culture at large, when you start cleaving off those kind of things that didn't really have much of an impact in the first place, I don't think you lose much in terms of modern culture.
I'd love to have a historian come through and talk about that.
Yeah, right.
Like What are the epics of our age? What are the defining stories of the early internet? You know, of course, it's important to try and preserve things, which is what great libraries have done in the past. And we have a good friend who's like a very loud advocate for internet archiving and the history and the importance of preserving that. And you're like, it's just digital, it goes away. Well, it tells a story. It's a very important way to look back. And you are right in that sometimes even the worst moments are the ones that are important to preserve, to be like, look at this young, naive, angry, ignorant culture of people who tried to make each other laugh through shock value.
Yeah.
Well, and the problem is you can't just say, oh, this will be important, so let's archive that and not anything else.
Yeah.
Because the problem comes with, in 20 years, you don't know what was actually important. It's why video game archival is becoming like a really huge thing now, because especially with games that have updates in them and like online play only games and these multiplayer MMOs where stuff changes through different versions, and once a new version hits, you can't really necessarily go back to an older version and see what that was like or see what the changes were in between. And so to be like early on, especially in something that's new, generally once you don't need the old thing anymore, get rid of it. It's trash. But again, iterations of software and programs tells a story. It tells you what has changed over time. It's why when you look back at older video games now, and some people have that nostalgia of like, oh man, the game's got to be like arcade hard, and it's like, does it though?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a time period then, but does it have to be now? And does a gamer now see that and not just think that it sucks? Like,
so there's always the idealistic versus the realistic, and the idealistic side of me even says save it all, give it to the archivists, and they will ensure that we can keep everything and people can go to a location to look at it or do whatever, right? And the realistic side of me is saying you can save it all, and it sucks that maybe not everyone will have access to be able to look at this thing or access this thing or do whatever, but the vast majority of people who remember shit on Newgrounds were not going to Newgrounds Weekly to watch all of it.
No, right. They saw a couple viral videos, right?
Yeah, and so the people who are like, oh no, we can't lose Flash because we'll all lose Newgrounds. I'm like, you were not going to Newgrounds on the regular to watch all this stuff and to take part in it. So it's not something that it's like putting a bunch of books in a box and then putting the box somewhere and then coming back to it 5 years later and being like, what's in this box? You're like, I don't know, because I stopped remembering because it wasn't important. Now these are still books and they're important, and yeah, maybe they should go to a library or use bookstore or to somewhere else. They shouldn't get shredded, but it's like these books were of no use to you in your present day life, and that doesn't mean that other people can't benefit from them, but if you didn't need them, then why are you so upset about getting rid of them? And I just got rid of a bunch of books, so I got
400 CDs gathering dust in my closet. Beej, let's talk. right?
Oh, I can't get Beej to go through the CDs.
I need to Mary Kondo my closet like it's something else, but that's different. But yeah, we digress.
Yeah.
Oh, what an interesting conversation. But we have to move on to Defrost, longtime Loading Ready Run moderator. First time asker, I don't know if that's true. Let's move on. Who would be on your list of content creators to collaborate with? Ooh, I was just talking about the importance of collaborating.
Yeah. Because that could be other things like we did. Well, Punch and Chunk was a thing where we collaborated too, right? Like even outside of Magic, we do
Pearlescent Moon, which is fantastic. Her channel's just exploding. So
yeah, we've had like a number of guests for Dice Friends and
on Jackbox.
Jackbox. I think Talking Sim has gotten a couple of outside guests.
So one of the oddly good things, very few good things about the pandemic has been we have been collaborating way more.
Mm-hmm.
Since everyone is online, it's given us a really interesting opportunity to reach out to other people who already have online setups and be like, yo, come join us, right? Like all of our Commander Magic lately on the Magic side. We talked about Jackbox. We have all these streams. I mean, the latest Dice Friends, right? You're like, hey, you got a webcam? You got a microphone? Are you funny? Come hang out.
Yeah, it'll be good. I've been watching a lot of Legal on YouTube. and just the guy's general attitude and kind of this methodical whatever. I really love his videos, and I'm like, I would love to see if we could collab on something that is completely not legal related. Does he just want to be a guest on something we do, right? Just because like you make YouTube stuff and we do, you just want to come on and have fun.
I mean, how do you look at like a person you want to collaborate with? Like, as there's always there's like the there's people I really like that I would love to collaborate with who I'm not going to name because I feel like I'm just going to reveal internet crushes if I do that. But then there's like sure, there are people who have really large crowds, and if you're like, oh man, that person, if they were on our channel, would definitely like get more people here, which isn't necessarily true to a large degree. But I do kind of think that like when you're thinking about collaborating with someone, you probably want to pick somebody who you're like, do we have a good mix? Like would when I look at their community and the kind of person they are, does that suit my community and the kind of person I am? Is that a person I actually want to hang out with? Or am I going to find, or am I picking a person I don't know at all?
Yeah.
And then when I end up with them, I'm like, oh, why did I think this was a good idea? Like,
I suppose there's two sides to it. There's a business side, a strict business arrangement of, okay, content creation also pays our bills. In both these cases, for both parties. So what can we offer them? What can they offer us? Is it beneficial? And that's often why you typically try and collaborate with creators who are the same size as you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's nice to collaborate. It's nice to throw to people of a smaller size and lift them up and give shout outs and stuff like that. But you're like, okay, this is not going to help grow my channel.
Yeah.
That being said, there's also a very important thing of who are you reaching, right? Like you could do a podcast that only has 12 listeners, but if those listeners are all very important, very influential people, suddenly that could be like, oh wow, this is a person who represents a large brand who's going to help out. So every opportunity is valid or something like that. But yeah, there's the business opportunity if they should be roughly the side. And I totally agree with Heather. What kind of content do they make? Right? I want to reach out with somebody who, like me personally, for my channel, it'd be important that they're family friendly because I don't swear on my stream.
Yeah.
And I'd have a very hard time getting in there with somebody who's making like dick jokes constantly, just like wangs everywhere. I'm like, that's hilarious. And I'm trying not to laugh, but this isn't my brand.
Yeah. Exactly.
No. But like even if you look at it in a very cynical way of like, what do we both benefit from having this together? There is even just that kind of that thing with LRR where it's like, well, am I friends with that person? Do I want to hang out with that person? Does this mean I get some friendship time at the same time I get some work time? I get to double up?
Yeah.
You know?
And there's like, I mean, like I was on a Jackbox panel with, obviously with Loading Ready, or with Penny Arcade, but also with Chris Straub, but also Xavier Woods, which is a very fun experience to have. And he has his own thing that he does, like outside of even wrestling, he has his own channel and does his own podcasts and everything else. And I know that it's been talked about where it's like, well, and I don't watch wrestling, but just the idea that it's like, oh, well, and he remembers meeting Adam, I believe, Adam and Graham, and remember them talking about Sidewalk Slam too, which I thought was great. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, that would be cool. Or other guys who are like that, other Canadian guys who wrestle as well, to have them come on the program and be like, hey, as a Canadian and whatever else, how do you see yourself fitting in? But we've met so many people at so many things, and we're friends with Jim Sterling. But we're friends with Jim Sterling because of like how long ago our relationship overlapped with him, right? And it's like
it's they
with them. Sorry.
And I think it might be James Stephanie now. That's very new.
Okay.
But the which is awesome. But just like I would love to talk to them.
Right, but
I would love to actually just have a conversation with them instead of just hovering around this internet.
And there's the weird sets of connections that you have, and like the long time ago stuff, and who you would bring in. And I'm like, that would be a thing. It would be a lot of fun to try to do a collab with. But of course, what does that look like? Is that like a Checkpoint collaboration, or is that literally just we're going to play Jackbox, or we're going to play this, we're going to play Valorant, or you want to be on this thing with us? Like that kind of.
It's hard too because within LRR, like a lot of those streams started as a friendship thing. Like it's we should start Dice Friends because we all kind of want to do want to play D&D more.
Yeah.
We should start AFK because we'd all like to actually start to play some board games, and this makes a time in our schedule.
Yeah.
We should do Crossing the Streams because then we can play multiplayer games together.
Yeah.
And then there comes a point where it's like, okay, now if we filled all of those spots with guests, we're also taking away a little bit of our friendship time. Not that that's a bad thing, and not that we don't like do seek out some of that occasionally, but there are times when I'm like, yeah, it's cool that we have all these guests on for this week that I'm part of, but I wanted to hang out with the people I knew.
Yeah. And stunt casting is always very fraught because you never know if what you do in a stunt cast, it's like if you're just doing nothing but trying to stunt cast. We found this in Snap2Cast Theater, that if you're going out and trying to find like other voice actors or other people who are like involved in whatever, and you try to get them to come on your improv show and to do stuff, it's like, that's great, but also it's so, you never know what you're going to get in terms of the interaction or in the quality of behavior, because even if you know what they're like on their channel, if they're coming on to guest on you, what if, because they don't know you, they freeze up a little bit, right? What if they
well, you're doing improv, which also requires a bit of a comfort level with other people that you're working with.
And
at
so
that point.
It's tough because it's like we love to, for especially the pre-releases, we love to have people from the community come in and be involved in that, because that is so much. The pre-release lets it be so much more than just LoadingReadyRun is doing this cool thing. It's like LoadingReadyRun wants to show you other people in the community who are doing cool things.
Can I just say, I do really as much as having a pre-release with guests at the Moonbase really disrupts my workflow because there's a lot of activity and a lot of people. I miss being there and finding other women who end up just showing up who I've never heard of because I don't play Magic, but then finding out that they're also into like anime or something I do care about. And then I'm like, okay, I could be friends with you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And then later on we hire them as an editor, you know?
That was... we should wrap this up. We should have our last question, I think. Yeah.
That was our
Nope.
Aha!
Yes.
All right. Our last question of the day comes from Daniel Haras, who asks, what is the first thing you want to do when the coronavirus restrictions are lifted completely? I'm just going to take my face and put it on other people's faces. I'm like, not a kiss or anything. I'm just gonna
we're gonna have this big hug at the Moonbase where we're just rubbing their heads on each other.
It's gonna be like the first time I'll be so overexcited by like some sort of weird 60-person party that we have that I'm normally just like, oh, that's a lot of people, and I'll find a corner, and now I'm just gonna be like, we're all gonna join in a circle and like jump into a big cuddle puddle or something, aren't we?
There's the hospitality stuff is, I think, what a lot of people are looking forward to. Like, not even just I'll go for a walk, because we're all going to keep wearing masks. Even like those, that is a thing I think is not going to go away in the larger North American
I
thing.
hope not.
It's still argued about as a culture war thing, but I think it's not going to go away largely because I'm going to continue to do it for a while.
Beej gets culture things going. You'll see. He'll make it happen.
To go to Bin 4,
oh my God, right?
And sit down in a booth and have a hamburger and talk with 3 other people, and the wait staff can come actually give you stuff, and you can look at people while you're talking to them, and even with the masks on, I'm like, just being able to do that. And we can do it now, but I'm like, no.
I don't know. I've been outside with another person. We've both been wearing masks. We're both like 6 feet apart, and we're both standing there and talking to each other. And it's very distracting because the entire time I'm just like, I just want to hug you so incredibly badly. And I feel awkward because I feel like I want to hug you, but you're saying no, except we're not saying no. We're both being safe. And it's all I can think about.
Do you worry that you're going to forget how to talk to people?
I do that on a weekly basis.
Okay, perfect. I was having this conversation with Cameron, and Cameron's like, what are you talking about? You talk to people for a living. I'm like, no, I talk at people for a living. I don't know how to have a conversation anymore.
I used to, on my way to work, when I was about 20 or whatever, going to Walmart, because we work in a customer service position, which means you have to talk to people. I would sing very loudly in the car just to do something with my vocal cords so that when it came to talking later, I could talk louder.
Mm.
So, like, forgetting how to talk to people is just a daily occurrence, even without a weird virus restriction.
Yeah,
I know
that's
it
fair.
doesn't seem like it. I've definitely done the polls on that, and I know people are like, "No, you seem so cool, and you can talk to anyone." And I'm like, I'm just really good at not letting you know I can freak out
Yeah,
real well.
that means by faking it's getting there.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Beej. I miss the white noise. I miss the background noise of being in a busy cafe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even necessarily need to be talking to people. It's just really comforting to be around people. And I think that's the hardest thing lately has been the silence. And so the absence of that, the presence,
A
presence of
little
noise, the presence
white
of
white
people.
noise.
Yeah, will be wonderful.
And it's not the white noise though, completely, because you can get noises and stuff that
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
listen
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
It's the presence of people around you, warm bodies, and that things are happening, even if you're not necessarily a part of those things happening around you. I miss cafes so much, Serge.
No kidding. Oh, I mean, don't even get me started on that. But so it goes. All right, I think that's a lovely note. I think that's an optimistic note to end it on. So everybody, thank you very much for listening to askLR. I've been Serge, joined by the wonderful Heather and Beej. Reminder that askLR is brought to you by your support at YouTube subscription memberships, specifically. If you want to ask a question in a future one, Heather's wonderful and puts all the information in the description down below. And of course, everything we do wouldn't be possible without your support of the Patreon, patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Thank you very, very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.